and I'm gonna go do something else. But I want her to keep going to these. She's getting a lot of value out of them, and she took the meeting like initiative and like ran with it, and it's been amazing. Oh shoot, I gotta turn this down. So, but anyway, once I found out it was Tommy Mello, I'm like, let's put the brakes on this. I'm going for sure. If we were in a better spot financially, because this year's been tough for us, um, she probably would have came. By the
Yeah.
way, can you hear me? Yeah, you can. Okay, good. But we're going through like a tough time, so I'm kind of paying out of my pocket just to kind of, or from my paychecks, just because I want to go. So anyway, let's get started. But first, I want to just talk to the new viewers, the past subscribers, all you guys. I just want to point out that from the people that watch this, the value they get usually, or even just listening to this, is they put this on, throw on their headphones, start working, get tons of value out of these podcasts. And I just wanted you to know that this last week, from last video, there was only 51% viewers that weren't subscribers. That's pretty good. That's a way better number than it was the week prior. I think we were at 68% the last week. So I'm just asking everybody to please listen to this podcast, the whole thing, if you want, if you're new. And if you like it, please subscribe to this. Because my goal with this podcast, with the new year, it's kind of like my New Year's resolution, is I want to actually go visit the people that we're talking to. Like, for example, if I actually had money coming in with this channel from sponsors or from the viewers, I would love to go visit somebody like Kristian and kind of give a shop tour. And I can do that in the future if I can kind of present a full good channel with viewership and all this kind of stuff, and money for me to go make these trips too. So guys, all I'm asking is watch the whole video. If you think you get value out of this, please subscribe. So with that said, I'm here with my lawn care brother, Kristian Zoppa from Cleanr Property Management in Winnipeg, Canada. I've known Chris for literally we've known each other for like 5 years, right? But only spoken to each other maybe 4 years, but maybe just recently started speaking with each other like in person, probably 2 years now, right? Something like that.
Close to 2 years now, yeah.
So I've been super impressed with Kristian. When I first heard of Kristian, I don't know, I found you somehow, and I was just super impressed with your. What's that?
A random Facebook group.
A random Facebook group. Yeah, you had this podcast, and I was so impressed with it, and I just kind of followed you with that early on, and then I ran into you were at the mastermind group in Dallas. I happened to walk by because I was there. I like going to events a day early, just so when the event starts the next day, I'm not rushing or anything like that. And I just happened to walk by this group of people that kind of look familiar, kind of not, I don't know, but I saw like there were food and drinks there, and I was like, I bet you I can go in that room and nobody will notice, and I'll have some of whatever they're having. And maybe I'll get to meet some people. And then I saw you sitting there, and I was like, dude, I know that person. And I was like, is your name Kristian? And you're like, yeah. And I think it took you a minute to recognize me from like us talking online. And then and then from there we've kind of been good friends, and I joined that group too. So yeah, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what services you do, and how long you've been in business?
Perfect. Well, thank you for the introduction. So again, my name is Kristian Zoppa, based out of Central Canada. We've been in business for going on 8 or so years now. We offer lawn care, landscaping, fertilizer, weed control, and then of course snow clearing in the winter. we're in central Canada, so winter is 5 months of the year for us. But yeah, the business has been going well. It's been a journey, a lot of learning, lots of great learning experiences and growth as a person through this company. So grateful for that, and grateful for you for having me on today.
Yeah, you bet, man. I love people like you. You're different than a lot of people I know. I'm somebody that likes it, that I don't like to, but I take a step forward, two steps back. Take a step forward, two steps back. And I kind of inch my way towards what I would call success. You're somebody that I feel takes three steps forward, one step back. Three steps forward, because I don't know, I feel like you have that mindset of like you see the opportunity, and I don't know how you synthesize it in your head, but you kind of, I feel like you make good decisions fast, because I feel like you've grown. I mean, and I'm talking about just in general, but you did, you have this business. I feel like you've gotten to a million pretty quickly, right? How long did it take you to get to 1 million?
Honestly, I think slower than I would have liked, but that was probably 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years. And are you counting from like the day one that you registered your business? So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give you some slack and be like, most time I don't really count that first year. I mean, unless you bought it, you had a ton of accounts. I mean, how many accounts did you have when you first started? Like day one?
Well, 0 day.
Yeah. So
Yeah. The first year was no more than 20, and it was
okay.
kind of part time.
Yeah. So did you say 5 to 6 years to get to 1 mil?
About,
That's
yeah.
that's incredible, man. That's incredible. So what kind of like tell me how do you get to 1 million that fast?
So I think um, 0 to 1 million is purely hard work and doing what needs to be done, day in, day out, no lifing it. That's at least how I did it. 1 million plus is building a team of great people. That's where surrounding yourself with people who are way smarter than you and have stronger skill sets in every area than you becomes extremely valuable. And I think that's what we're starting to do now. We've got a team of awesome people, and that's what's propelling the growth. It's no longer me. Um, it's the team that surrounds the company.
So is that just pure luck in your case with finding good people, like, or like how do you figure out who's good and smart, like because I'm telling you 5 years, like that's incredible, because I didn't really start building my team till like for like until like 6 or 7 or 8 years when I started actually building a stronger team. I kind of had positions filled, but never really like feeling like they could run with it on their own and like feel like, you know what, we're gonna grow because of you. Like I'm there now, but it seems like you got there a lot sooner. And how'd you do that with people that early, especially because usually have to pay people pretty good that are smart like that.
I think um, the first few really good people were there's definitely an aspect of luck there, because in those early stages you don't really know, at least me, so I'm talking about myself. I didn't know how to train people. I didn't know what to look for good people. I didn't know how to set expectations, how to follow through on all of that. I'm still learning in all those categories. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I really didn't know how to do that back in the day. So there's definitely an aspect of luck to it in the beginning, but I think now it's going through the coaching that program that you and I are both a part of through Simple Growth there, um, and having our core values out for the public or out for the company to see, the public of the company to see, and our mission and all of that. We can take that, we can look at somebody and say, hey, does this person align with these core values and our mission and our vision? And if not, they're not the right fit for the company. So I think that makes it a lot easier to paint a clear picture if it's the right person with the right skill set. Skill set's easy to test. Can they do their job or not? Right? That's like objectifiable. That's super easy to test if they're good at their job or not. But aligning with the culture of the company is a tough one. But once you define that, I feel like it becomes a lot easier. So again, to reiterate my point, in the beginning, luck. And we, went through some people, we went through some hard times. Obviously, there was a period of time where we had some people on the team who weren't a right culture fit, but their skill sets were there. From the coaching group, all about that. But we've since restructured a little bit, and now I believe everyone on the team is awesome, great fit for the company, and that's what's going to propel us to grow a lot quicker.
So I've been in huddles with you, and we've talked about culture and the values. And you kind of, I don't know how, I know you're heavy into it now. When did you really say, you know what, we need to really push values? Like what year? Like somebody starting out, how soon should they get on that bandwagon?
I think starting out day one, and I think
Yeah.
having structure to the organization day one is really, even if it's just you, it's really necessary. For me, it took me a lot of years to learn that, and even once I learned all about purpose, mission, values, weekly level 10 meetings, sort of the EOS or elite um, business plan, if you will. It took me a year and a half of learning that to actually start to implement it. And the biggest thing that changed was we let go of some people who were not on board with that idea, who weren't a culture fit. And once those people moved on, then we could actually implement everything we were learning through the coaching. And that was only recently. That's within the past 6 months or so. And I feel like since then, things have completely shifted. The culture is way better. Everyone's happier to come to work now. At least myself, I'm a lot happier to come into work. And yeah, things have significantly improved.
So when did you realize, like, all right, because I knew that the values was important, kind of having a mission statement. I worked before lawn care. I was manager of companies. I was kind of like a trainer because I was like, I really want to do things right, really organized. So I knew like a lot of these companies that I worked for when I was doing orientation, I'd basically recite almost off memory the company like motto stuff. So when I started lawn thumbs, I had one, and I said it and I memorized it. In fact, I just went over it again with one of my managers because it's not our current one anymore. Because now I'm a little more focused on values and kind of like a real mission statement, not just like that la di da, like because it's what I wanted to do, and I still memorize it. I still appreciate that I went through that and I told people, but it wasn't really. It was what I wanted. It wasn't really what I could deliver. Like so, is I think there's something there too. Like having a value or a mission statement that you can actually deliver, not something that you want. I know that there's stuff that you kind of have to say because you want for the future, but like when it comes to values, like you got to live it. So, do you have any advice for new people when they're coming up with values or a core mission statement? Uh, any advice on what kind of things they should be looking for in that?
Yeah, so I think we went through much of the same process as you. The first the first go around as a company working on mission, vision, and values, it felt very fluffy and not accurate, I guess is the word. Um, Going through it a second time a year and a half later and really spending the time on it, now it's something that I can actually align with. I think on
Yeah,
values, the values have to be actual core values, not only that you believe in and you wish to be true, but values that you actually live and demonstrate on a daily basis, right? Because
yeah.
it's nice to put up on the wall and remind people that hey, this is our core value. But if you're not actually demonstrating that, then it's there's
It'll get lost.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So cool. What did your setup, not necessarily setup, changing gears a little bit, but like what did it look like when you started, your first week? Were you on the field yourself? Did you have equipment? How'd you get your equipment? What'd your setup look like? And how did that whole operation look like when you first started?
Yeah, so very beginning would have been November of 2015. So I guess a little over 8 years ago at this point. Um, I started with, and so November is when our snow season starts typically, November 1st to March 31st. But there wasn't snow on the ground yet. So I was handing out flyers through October, got 15, 20, 25 customers, something like that the first year. But the very first month or so in October, before the snow season, which I consider my official start because it's the start of the season, I was borrowing my dad's truck, which was just an old beat up Dakota, which I ultimately ended up buying off him. And we finally retired it like 3 months ago, which is hilarious.
Wow, that's cool.
But yeah, so borrowed his truck, borrowed a rake and a lawnmower, and I was just going out and doing fall cleanups myself. Snow season started. I bought a snow blower, a backpack blower, and some shovels, and went at it using his truck for the first 2 months. January rolled around. I went out and financed a truck, which I would not do again. Well, especially in the beginning, if I was starting over, I wouldn't finance a truck. But financed a brand new truck, and the ball was rolling after that.
Nice. So at this point, you're a little more established. I know that, you still got a little way to go to where you can like start dreaming big because, there is, if I remember right, you're like mid 1.5 mil or something like that.
Yeah, well, like we
1.8.
around 1.7.
Yeah, so I know that at some jump, like from there, like at 500K more, you should have mostly the same kind of labor costs and all this stuff. So things are going to jump up a little bit. Which, by the way, we have a bet.
Yeah.
Can you kind of remind everybody what that bet is? Just because I'm kind of foggy with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it started
Okay.
in November though, right?
Yeah,
No, October.
the last event we were at in Texas. So Freddie and I see each other at this point every 3 months at least now in person. And that's through the coaching group we're a part of. So in October, we made a bet that from November 1st to October 31st, or until the next Texas event, first one to hit 2.5 million in sales wins, and the loser has to pay for meals for the other person for the entire week.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to lose because Freddie has extremely expensive taste. So
Yes.
the goal is to win that bet for sure.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about it. I'm already like feeling like I'm having a pretty good year. The snow, yeah. So our snow events so far, today we're on our second, but I would call it like technically this is called number 8 for us. Like on our dispatch board, it's storm number 8. But as far as the charging customers, we're doing like all the residentials on all these 8 storms, but the commercial ones that we actually charge when we do it, um, I think today we might be able to charge, and if we do, that'll be the second chargeable storm. So, but super excited. We got a lot more better plans than we did this time of year last year. We are focused on living my dream of paying all the workers all year, having high payroll, and we're not doing that anymore. We have to, and we wouldn't be able to this year with the lack of snow. But so I'm hopeful that we're gonna do really well. Even if it's not hitting those numbers, it's gonna be more profitable for sure. But with that said, with because I, I from when I got to, I don't know if you've had this big jump. That could be a good question. Have you had a year where you ended, let's say, 1.7 last year or 1.8? The year before, let's say you were at 1.1. Did you see that big, like almost life-changing difference in revenue yet, or haven't had that yet?
I think our 500 grand of sales in a year. And really the biggest change that I saw was, well, one, we hired better people. So hiring better people allowed us to sell more work and produce more work, and also have those better people manage the work so that I could be less involved with the day-to-day management of the work. So I think the biggest change hasn't been like dollars in my bank account or the company's bank account. It's really been uh, me being able to take a step back and focus on the business and what the business needs to actually get to the next level, as opposed to putting out fires on a daily basis.
Okay, yeah. So what do you see long term, like with this business? You seem like somebody that will grow this thing huge, but also I feel like your an entrepreneurial spirit is like stronger than most people that I've talked to. What are your long term goals with the company, I guess, or the revenue that it could generate?
Just a quick side note. So entrepreneurial spirit is one of our core values.
Okay, cool.
So long-term goals, see, this is an area where I think I'm actually failing the company right now because it's tough to quantify the long-term goals. I feel like at some point there's a natural cap where I'm going to lose interest, lose
Hmm.
total in the company, and I'm not sure where that is. That it's going to probably fall somewhere between 3 to 6 million a year in sales. I think there's another thing that I always talk about is I think there's levels where levels to business or revenue, and it differs by industry, but and location. But I think there's going to be a level where we can stop growth or slow it down to 5 or 6 or 7% a year, something just very minimal, and really dial in on profit. And I think that's going to be a very comfortable level. And then there's going to be a discussion to be had of, do we want to go to the next level, or do we want to just make sure everyone's paid well and we keep performing good work and everyone's happy, and then we move on to a different venture completely. So I don't really know the answer to that question, which again I think is a failure on our part. But I think somewhere between 3 to 6 million a year in revenue is kind of the cap of what I want to do in lawn care. And I think
Okay.
there's going
Yeah, I think that's a great that alone is just good to know. Like I didn't know that. In 2022, when that year ended, which was the year prior to the last one, I had the best year financial I've ever had. Like I never thought that I would reach that level. Even my wife was like, "Are we dreaming here? Like, did you know this was going to happen?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did, but I just didn't know it was going to happen this year. I started the year like normal. And so that's when I started to like expand my thinking at the end of the year, going, wow, I could probably like do something on the side. I'm the kind of person that will invest in this business, so I probably did a whole bunch of that too. But I for the first time was thinking, oh, I might get into real estate. So I just feel like you're gonna see that, like when you hit that, you're gonna take off on something, because I just see that in you. And the sad part is with me is that the next year was the worst year. I can't say it's the worst year financially because it was still probably the best year financially for me prior to the last 6 years of my whole life. So it wasn't, it's still really good. But I couldn't, like, my brain said, all right, I can't think of those crazy, awesome things anymore. I got to get back to this business and build it up again or whatever. Um, but I think when you do that, I don't know, it's gonna be really exciting to see what you do, whether you invest it back in your business or you do something like completely on the side, and it's gonna be awesome. I could just see that with you. So, and that's one of the things that, I do want to talk to people like you when I feel like I have that opportunity, because it's hard for me to think that like I'm just passionate about this business, and I know it really good. I had the opportunity to buy another company of this industry, and I did it easily as if somebody were buying, I don't know, painting or I don't know, a hospital. There's entrepreneurs that are like, "Oh, I'm going to buy a software company," and they just go do it. I feel like you're that kind of person, and I'm not. But when I saw an opportunity in the same industry, I was all over it, and it was great. And I even got new employees out of it that I bought from the other company, and everything worked out great. But I just don't have that step to get outside of my industry, which I think you do. Uh, and I don't mean to put pressure on you because I think that about you, but that's just kind of how you come across in your interactions, the way you talk to people and the way you say things. I just feel like you have the confidence to do anything. You just have to do it. And I think this could be a great vehicle for you to do that. But with that said, have you had any like ups and downs that you kind of had to overcome so far in this industry?
yeah, I mean, um, cash flow is always an issue. And I don't even want to say we've solved that issue. I've just managed it. It's not solved by any means, but it's been managed. So cash flow is always an issue. We do a lot of commercial in the winter, so that means higher accounts receivable that we're floating for 60 to 90 days. Some clients are 120. There's one client that's almost a year overdue. They will pay, but they're a year overdue. So that is always something that I would say is a struggle within this business. Um, and I think the rest of the struggles in this business really are the people component and building the team. Like I said at the start of the call, I feel like we're getting a lot better at that now. But historically, I think that's been an issue. On the field staff side, because of the seasonality of where we are, and you face this issue as well, it's tough to retain people year to year to year. We lose a lot of our good staff over the winter because we can't provide full-time hours over the winter. So I think developing a proper winter pay system where we're not going broke off of it, but also the staff are getting paid enough that they can live. And then when it snows, they're getting some bonus money too. I think that's really important. That's not something we currently have developed, but I think if we can build something that is a win-win for the field staff as well as the company, and the win for the company would be not going broke in the winter. That'll give us a jump start every spring when we're going out and we're trying to make sales and increase the amount of trucks on the road and all of that, because then we don't have to retrain 70% of new staff every spring. We'll be going into each spring rush with 80% returning staff, and that would make life so much easier. So I think like the biggest struggles are what I mentioned there: cash flow, and then on the field staff side, retaining great people.
So when it comes to the winter layoffs, do you feel like, um, I know nobody has it figured out, but maybe you do. Um, like, is that just a reality of letting people go in the winter in this industry for you, or is there still something where you're still strategizing on how to make it work? I know there's probably a combination of both, but is one a little stronger than the other?
Prior to this year, I would say it was just a reality. But as we grow, it looks like, well, I know now that retaining people year over year, we have to solve that to continue to grow. So laying everyone off in the fall can't be our reality if we want to continue to grow. So we have to figure out some way of budgeting guaranteed hours at a rate that makes sense for the company and for the field staff worker.
So what do you think you're doing good with in that sense?
Nothing right now.
Really? Well, you've got workers, so something's working.
We do, but that's purely because Nina in our office is constantly interviewing people. Devin, our production manager, is constantly hiring people and running them through training. And that gives us a constant flow of workers through the winter who work 1 or 2 shifts, and then it doesn't snow for 3 weeks, and then they disappear. But our next crop of guys has already been trained up. It would be nicer if we could just have crew leads, 4, 5, 6 people, like one per main route. And I'm talking on the residential side right now. One per main route who can be reliable. We're paying them to always be around, and then they just show up when we need them, as opposed to new guys every single shift that need training.
And with you, there's no like once the snow falls, that's it. There's no leaf cleanups ever, until next, till the snow melts. It's just straight snow.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and pretty consistent. Do you have a number like of snowstorms that you get every year? Like for
Um,
me, it's 10.
Yeah, so we budget our pricing based off of 25. So 25 for residential and 15 for commercial. So 5 a month resi, 3 a month commercial is kind of standard. Standard trigger depths here are 2 inch for commercial and 1 inch for residential. It's different than in the States where everybody wants commercial scraped down to concrete and it has to be salted and it has to be just wet pavement before anybody gets in. Our roads are garbage all year long. Our parking lots aren't that great. Um, it's pretty standard to have a couple of inches of hard pack that just gets scraped once or twice a season, but you clear the fluffy stuff.
Yeah, that was interesting when you told me that once it snows, you don't see concrete, till spring,
Yeah.
except for like the busy Costco's or areas like that.
There's a small handful of commercial properties that will pay for zero tolerance here. The Amazon distribution center, Costco, some of the bigger malls. But aside from that, even places like large grocery stores, we got 3 centimeters, so an inch and a bit of snow overnight, waking up to it this morning. And all those parking lots didn't get cleared. Big grocery stores didn't get touched. They got sanded, but none of them got cleared. And the majority of the city won't get cleared today.
So wow. So I'm asking this because I know I don't think there's any place in the U.S. maybe that gets that much snow. At least the majority.
Minnesota,
So Minnesota, yeah, I've heard that place is pretty crazy. Um, so is there like would it be realistic to have some kind of salary for the winter people, or is it just like is the best thing is paid per storm hourly? You
so
know,
here's what I've been playing with in my head, and I need to run the numbers a little bit more to see if this makes sense. But effectively, what I think would make sense would be you are guaranteed 20% of your monthly route value. So most of our work is on contract, it's monthly pricing. So for sake of easy numbers, assume that your truck, you as the commercial snow operator or residential snow operator, are responsible for $10,000 a month worth of work, contract work. We'll guarantee that you're going to make $2,000 a month. That doesn't mean you're getting that money for free for sitting at home. Um, that means you still have to come in for 1 or 2 or 3 shifts a week to work in the shop and clean trucks and do whatever if there's no snow. In the event there is snow, obviously those hours go towards snow clearing. But we're just going to guarantee that you're going to get those shifts every month. And 20% seems like a number that would work. Obviously, 25 or 30%, if we could make the margins work, would be much better for the field staff. But 20% based on the root values that we have right now, I think would work. We would have to up the root values. But I think by having people who stick around, they would naturally get more efficient and be able to up those root values. And then it would also create a way for them to make more money through the winter, basically. Um, Say their current root value is only 4 grand and it takes them 12 hours. Now we tell them this program's out, they can go out and say, okay, I want this property, this property, this property, this property, get my route to 12 grand instead of 4 grand. And I'll do it in 8 hours now because I'm guaranteed money.
yeah, we've
So,
toyed with the idea of a commission percentage. I wish I had something I could say worked, but I don't either. We paid salary all last year. The issue that we get here is that, and we would have. The thing is, if it season would have started in March 1st, like we were supposed to, like we have every other year before last year, but that was also the first year we had everybody stayed and we did full payroll for everybody. Um, the problem is it didn't stop snowing. Like it stayed cold and dreary and gray, no sun until the last week of April. So, and I still kept paying everybody, and it totally crushed the company financially. So, if it would have started in March, so every once in a while when we get really depressed and we talk about it in the office, like Rachel, my GM, will say, "We almost pulled it off," and I'm like, "I know, but we didn't." So we should never like have that as like the mandatory thing, but unless we cut off at a certain day. Um,
which is what to suggest. Like for us, it could work because we do seasonal contracts. They pay monthly. So November to March, that's 5 months. So that's your guaranteed hours for 5 months. If there's
yeah.
no work in October and there's no work in April because of weather, okay, those may be the months that you have to go on unemployment. But during those 5 months, we're going to guarantee you hours.
Yeah,
And
see, my problem.
by the fact that we're being paid for those 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So the issue that I had is that think about that. We're paying salary. It was a great year. It was a great snow year. I don't think we capitalized on it like we should have because it was something that we weren't really pushing the year prior with snow. It was more like a savings to pay everybody. And then if we get work, and while we have these people, yeah, let's get it now. But, snow companies that need snow pushers usually look for that ahead of time, not just during the months of snow. So the issue was that it got to March where it could start, the sun could come out any day now. And I've got the strongest workforce you've ever seen that time last year because we paid everybody. We would have been unstoppable. So I was scared to stop paying them, thinking they were going to quit because we're right there. We were there. The season was supposed to start like tomorrow. It just never did. And but I kept having that mindset that it's gonna do it. So let's do one more payroll. It's gonna start next week. So let's do one more. You just gotta stop at some point and go, it's 100% hourly. If at this point you quit on me, well then you don't care about the company. That's kind of like our mindset now. But our problem is, and I'll just say this because we're on this topic, but like it doesn't snow for a while here, and then the sun comes out, it turns to like 55 degrees. People that didn't get their leaf cleanups or just moved into a new house with a dirty yard call us, and we can send some people out there. So the issue that we're having with people, with our workers, is it's not fair. You're paying us, you're paying everybody, but you're expecting us to work, but there's 5 people that aren't working today, and but we are. So then we have to deal with that. Even though I made everybody sign a paper just for me and them, and for the office to know, hey, we told you this is how much you're going to get a week, but you are required to work 24 hours or 23 hours for this amount of money, whether it snows or not. You have to at least put in that many hours if we ask you to. And they all signed it. The problem is when they see that other people aren't doing it, they start saying, hey, and I go, yeah, but you're a leaf guy. I'm not going to have the sprinkler guy do a gutter cleaning, dude. I'm just not going to do that. So that's the issue we're having. So I think what we're going to do next year is say you're hourly until the heavy snow season starts, which is usually January for us. So it's all complete 100% hourly until January. Then we'll start doing the salary for January and February, and then it stops again in March, hourly 100%. It sounds nice when you're thinking about it, then you got to do it. You know what I mean? So that's the other part about it. You got to keep people working. So earlier, about, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, you mentioned something about pricing where it's not like 100% perfect. There's something you want to focus on when you're at a little higher revenue. So changing gears a little bit, like, do you feel your pricing is like, I know the answer, I guess, because of what you said, but do you feel like it's really good?
Like our pricing for our services, just to clarify.
Yeah. So I'll just throw a little example. So when I first started, I tried to do best pricing I could, but then you learn things from other people, and then next thing you know, you get smarter and you go, oh crap, my prices are bad. Um, so you fix them while you're going, but then at some point, like we did in 2021, we were like, we don't care who you are. If you're my aunt and we mow your lawn, this is your price. Like everybody's getting that price increase. Have you done that yet?
No, not to that extent, completely honest. So I do know that historically our lawn mowing division doesn't really make money. So we're currently in the process. Basically, I'm back engineering everything. So I went through and I recalculated our man hour, our break even number for hourly rate, which came in surprisingly higher than I expected it to. So last time I calculated it, it was 65, $70 an hour was our break even number. So last season, mentally, that was the number. That plus a little bit of margin came up to about $80. That's what we were targeting per man hour. I calculated it again a few weeks ago, and our break even number is actually $80 per hour, which is the amount of money we were trying to make per hour. So
With
you can
profit.
see vision isn't making money at that point because we're making how much we're spending every hour. And it's definitely due to added overhead and cost of growth before you actually grow. We spend a lot of money on stuff that we may not need in the exact moment, but it will help speed up our growth. So with that new man hour, like break even number of $80 per hour, we're now taking every single mowing customer from last year and we're doing an audit on them. So our production manager started building out the sheet. I went in and fine-tuned a few things just to see some different numbers I needed to see to analyze. And now everybody's working on it in the office, and auditing every single property. So we're looking at actual time spent on property last year. How much did we budget? So budgeted hours versus actual hours. Turf square footage, so I can nail down production rates. How much they paid us, and then I just have a bunch of calculators built out that basically tells me, here's their price now. Did we make money? Yes or no? If the answer is no, here's how much to raise their price. So
So
that's
here's
historical data. That's what the spreadsheet will tell. And it
yeah.
also spits an average turf square foot produced per minute or hour, depending how we want to look at it.
And are those new production ratios that you're looking at from last year with people with grandstands, or are you looking at prior data?
So we're looking at 2023 data. So it'll be 3 or 4 crews with grandstands and the rest of the crews with push mowers. So that's going to be skewed a bit, which is fine because moving forward, every crew will have a grandstand. That's the intention. So the fact that there's some push mower crews will actually drop those production numbers, which will in turn raise our rates. And then when we get grandstands on every single crew, we'll end up making more money.
So having a proactive approach and going, yeah, these accounts need to be raised up will be super helpful. We're going to start doing that as well. So we're calling that our proactive approach, because you can have your prices, but if you constantly see this crew is doing $70 an hour instead of 80, well, that customer's price needs to be raised up. It's not your fault. It's not the customer's fault. It's just the way it is. If they want you to keep doing it. So we have this little motto we always say here at Lawn Thumbs is, if we're not making any money, what are we doing? Like, seriously, and it's really cool to hear other managers say that. But with that said, so you did go grandstands. Even with your grandstands, you felt like your pricing was still a little too low after that. They would finish their routes and all that kind of stuff.
It depends. And that's why we're doing the audit. So historically, we've priced based off turf square footage for the past 4 or 5 years now, but not really based off production rate data to determine those pricings. Like, that price matrix was all gut feelings based.
Mm-hmm.
Works to a point, but you don't really make money off that.
Yeah.
When we switched to grandstands, there was still properties that we were losing on. And there was properties that we were winning on massively. So far, looking at the audit, we're seeing properties that with an effective hourly rate of anywhere from $55 an hour to like $160 an hour. And there's just range, and I'd rather everything just hover around $100 an hour effective hourly rate. But yeah, so because of the historical implication of our pricing, I don't think the grandstands really, it's tough to quantify the difference it made.
Gotcha. So I will say though, we did talk about the importance of getting grandstands before you bought them, and so I've even been in rooms with you where you kind of credit me helping you make that decision. So why don't you tell everybody how that went?
Yeah, just I had a few calls with you, a few private calls, not lives or anything. You and a couple other buddies, and ultimately you convinced me to go buy some grandstands. So at the start of this past season, we went out and bought 3. And looking at it on a daily basis, the grandstands definitely improved production. I guess what I was getting at before is we still have prices that are too low, so it still is bad hourly rates, but production is definitely faster with the grandstands, without a doubt. So then a month into the season, we went out and bought another one. So we have 4 now, and we'll probably pick up 3 or 4 in the spring coming up. And then at that point, majority of the lawn trucks should have grandstands.
Yeah, one of the things when we did our numbers, we needed to be at I don't remember. I want to say $79 per man hour for the mow guys. And we thought, like, we were like, oh man, that's what we need to be at. That's what we need to be at. Anyway, we realized that we did the price increase, and we did the mandatory, everybody has to be at these prices. And then literally like 2 days later, Rachel said, oh my gosh, I forgot the drive time. I forgot to add the drive time to this stuff. So once she looked at that, it needed to be like at $85 an hour. And we're like, crap, It's like, we did all this thinking, and we went with the prices, and this is what we're going to do. At that point, I felt like, you know what? we made such a big deal. We lost. I'm telling you. So it's kind of a blessing that happened. I don't know if I told you the story, but going into that season, prior season we had 5 crews, 2-man crews, but this season we had, or that the year that we changed it, we had 5 crews, 1-man crews. So we lost a ton of customers, and I felt like, well, we're going 1-man crews anyway. This will be good, and we'll just try and build it up because if we're not making money, why do it anyway? So if we lose all the mowing customers, who cares? That was my mentality. So we lost a bunch of customers. Anyway, we raised the prices. We lost a bunch of customers, but at the same time, we realized the prices we still needed to be like $5 an hour more higher. But whatever, we let it go because we already did the thing. We lost a bunch of customers. They all left. But one thing we didn't know that we didn't think about was, like, since we're giving them a performance pay, since we gave our guys performance pay, even though we needed to be at $85 per man hour, some of them were doing $120 an hour, and because we pay off budget hours and not commission percentage of the pay, it had just worked out for both of us. So that's something that I wasn't prepared for either. That just kind of like the fact that they went so much faster and got so much more done, our production rate went up anyway. So
Mhm.
we never even so we did make the price increase, but the people that ended up staying with us, which wasn't many, they kept that one price increase, but all new customers got the $85. You know what I mean? But anyways, just one of those things that happens that's just kind of like awesome. So hopefully that continues, to happen for you.
And honestly, like on the topic of 1-person crew versus 2-person crew, I think there's massive efficiency in solo crews cutting grass, especially with grandstands. Um, Anything realistically sub like 20,000 square feet or half an acre, you're more efficient with one person, in my
Yeah,
opinion. And I've tracked the numbers. Like majority of our properties are sub 10,000 square feet, but tracking the numbers on that, the second person never makes a big enough difference to actually be like. It's never a good idea to have 2 people on a grass crew. You're just for
totally.
us money on that every single
And
time.
yeah, and the part that actually just recently kind of got me to really think about it is the not on property time with 2 people. You're
Yeah.
paying 2 people uh, when they're not on the property, as if it could easily be one person. You know what I mean? And the performance pay doesn't really, in my opinion, isn't sustainable for 2 people because they have to mow like 30 lawns a day consistently, with good attitude, good speed every day for that to work out really good, to have like low 30 uh, labor percentage.
Yeah.
And it's just you're paying those 2 people in between jobs almost longer than they are on property. So that's just doesn't make sense. And it took me a while to figure that out.
I'll throw some like hypothetical numbers out. Um, a 2-person crew is going to do about 50% more than a solo crew. And obviously, so I'm going to just use really low numbers for the sake of round numbers. A solo crew could do 10 properties. A 2-person crew might do 15 to 18. They're not going to do 20. Like they're never doing double what a solo does. So that right there is massive efficiency loss.
Right.
Obviously, all solo crews, you need extra trucks and extra equipment. You basically need double of everything. So if you're going to split up that 2-person crew, now you need double the equipment. So yes, there's a bunch of upfront cost and potentially ongoing cost with that second set of trucks and equipment and ramp rack and grandstand and whatever. Um, but that is offset by the efficiency gained of now running 2 crews who are uh, very, very quick and efficient.
So with that said, do you run 1-man crews
Every,
for all everything?
everything except for
So
land. That's like the one that breaks the rule, but everything is solo all the time.
can you just kind of name off a couple the divisions that are solo?
So lawn mowing, commercial and residential are solo. Fertilizer weed control, you never need a second person on fertilizer weed control, at least in our market. Again, we do smaller properties primarily, like sub 10,000 square feet of turf. Landscaping is going to be a 2 to 3-person crew typically. In the winter, commercial snow plowing is always solo. They never have a helper. If they need to do sidewalks, they get out and do sidewalks. Intentionally do not take on properties with massive sidewalks, because we'd rather just push snow with plow trucks and loaders and skids. And then residential snow primarily is solo, unless it's a very, very heavy snowfall. We will bring on helpers for the resi snow guys.
Right
So
on.
it's resi snow that may have double crews.
That is definitely one thing I want people that listen to this to really understand, not just this podcast, but all the podcasts I do, that one-man crews is the way to go. You
It
know,
is.
it's so much easy to track. Like we actually track the man-hour rates of every single truck, even the three-man crews, because we have the landscaping crews that do up to three. We would like to keep them at two, but three is probably the real ideal number there. But all the other ones are one-man crews, and it's so easy to track, and it's so easy to not blame anybody. Like, it's your truck, that's your crew, that's your route. Like the dispatcher goes, hey, this guy should be at 675 or 75, but he's at 73. Can you just take a house off of him and give it to somebody that's killing it? It's like so much easier. Yes, that requires people to look at that kind of stuff, but it's so worth it, So,
Yeah.
is there any services that you're wanting to get into that you just haven't yet, or you plan in the future?
Not in this business. If we were to get into any new services, it would be spun off as its own company. So there is certain areas that are of interest, mainly heavy equipment related, like if trucking, for example, running tandems and trailers, running gravel and soil and stuff like that, or just general heavy equipment construction is of interest, but it would not be a part of this company. It would be its own thing. Potentially like dumpster rentals. But again, like none of this is all just,
Right.
something
Yeah.
I would pull trigger on it because it's of interest to me. But it would not be a part of this company. I don't want this to have a million service offerings, right? We've narrowed it down to the point where, we don't touch trees, we don't do shrub trimming, we don't do pruning, we don't do really gardening or anything like that. We don't do holiday lights. We keep it very bare bones, and we're just trying to be good at that. Do a lot of it, do it efficiently, make money at it. That's the goal.
So I'm gonna take this back to like the earlier talk we had about management and stuff like that. Do you do you have kind of like like in your mind, whether you do it or you think there's a better system of when the trigger is that you can hire that non-billable employee? Do you have something like that?
No, I just know that I do it way too early, in my opinion. But ultimately, it's a comfort level thing. If you hire that person early, it takes a lot of stress off of you. Obviously, it eats into profits, so you're going to make less money. That is the direct result. 9 times, like at least for the first year, until they really get into their position, they're not going to be a money making role. And I'm talking like a divisional manager type person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Our new moving into next season, we're looking at either offering raises or promotions to a few people or bringing on some new people, but we're going to have 3 new management positions moving into this upcoming spring, I should say. And they're going to be all technically non-billable. The way it's going to work is for 2 of the divisions that are kind of our slower, they don't really need a manager type division. They're going to work in the field for a certain amount of time. Maybe 20 to 50% of their day is going to be field work, which is going to slightly offset their wage. And then the rest of the time is going to be management. So if the morning they have to get the guys out the door, make sure equipment's good, all of that, maybe by 9 or 10 a.m., they go out and they fertilize 10 properties. And then they're checking in the afternoon with their guys, doing quality control, routing the next day, dispatching it, all of that. So same applies to landscaping. Lawn mowing is the one intensive division where in the spring and fall, the divisional manager can't be out cutting grass. There's always something going on because that's technically our biggest summer division currently. And at scale, when every division is that size, 7 to 10 crews, the divisional manager won't be working in the field at all. They'll just be making sure the guys are happy. Quality control is there. Production numbers are there. All of that. But to go back to your question of when to bring people like that on, or even office people, I feel like I do it too early. We end up overpaying, or paying people to sit around. But ultimately, the reasoning behind that is it's chicken and egg. And I like to put that overhead before we actually need it. So when we actually need it, it's there, it's trained, it's ready to go. It takes the stress away from um, that moment when you really need another person in the office and you don't have somebody trained up. And now you're
Yeah,
the fault.
totally. So with your 3-man crew or 2-man landscaping, who does the quotes on those?
So our landscape manager.
Okay,
So he's
and
that title. So he's like the divisional manager for landscaping. He does the quoting now. Through SA, we've developed some cool forms and a quoting process that we're going to be using moving forward, and some templates and some price matrices and all this cool stuff. So he can go out on his phone, use an on-site form, talk to the customer, take notes, and then fill in all the various fields. How much of soil do we need? Sod, describe the job, how much landscape fabric, all the normal measurements he would take, he fills it out. And that in itself will generate pricing for the job without him having to think in terms of price. He just
mhm.
punches in. So this was something we already had built just in a spreadsheet that he would use. Um, and he was doing quoting last year as well. But yeah, moving into this year, to answer your question, he'll be doing all the quoting, all of it. I was doing some of it last year.
So house to house, does he work on properties too, like the 50% of times, or no?
We keep landscape estimating to 2 days a week, and we split it north and south. So I think Tuesdays are the south side of the city, Thursdays are the north side of the city.
Man, that's
Um,
so important to have a system like that, keeping dense route,
yeah,
even for the
exactly,
landscapers staying in that area. That's really cool.
exactly.
And then what KPIs do you look for like regularly?
So by division, I'm just thinking of what his KPIs are. So net promoter score by division is one we're
Okay.
looking at. Kind of tough to track within SA. And we're figuring out some workarounds. We look at net promoter score as a whole right now, but we're trying to figure out how to do it by division. I think that's just going to be manual work, or using tags and building some custom reports. I think it can be done, or tags or custom fields. Regardless, it can be done somehow. We just have to build it. So NPS, um, in our Monday office meetings, we're looking at revenue generated for the week. We're looking at total revenue year to date. We're also looking at uh, estimates sent and estimates sold and our close rate. We're also looking at accounts receivable, accounts payable, NPS. I believe those are the main metrics we go over in our Monday office meetings. In the production meeting, oh, and callback rate. So properties serviced that week and callback percentage. And we have targets for every category. So we want callback percentage on a weekly basis to be less than 1%. NPS, I believe the target's above 60. Um, and then revenue is just revenue targets and all of that. And accounts receivable and accounts payable, they have their own set of targets. In the production meetings, we haven't dialed that in yet, to be completely honest, aside from like callbacks, callback percentage, that sort of thing. What we are going to start tracking is revenue by division on a weekly basis, and uh, NPS, like I said, by division.
Nice. Do you ever track backlog? How far back your backlog is for the landscaping?
Not
It's
really.
just always busy and
As long as we're not, more than a 6 week wait, I'm happy.
yeah. So
And
my answer to the sorry,
I was
take
just
it
saying,
away.
I sounds like a long time. And actually, there's one more main data point we track, because our guys are P for P. So we track performance, obviously in terms of dollars produced per crew. And that's obviously a huge data point that I left out. And then the final data point is in SA, we are using the employees rating section. So we track compliments and complaints per, like, somebody
Oh,
calls in,
nice.
hey, Dave did a great job. We're going to go into his employee profile, log that, and it's going to bump his rating up. So we have a rolling rating for all the employees.
Sweet. Yeah, my with with the backlog one is we were on a 1 to 2 day backlog almost all year. The estimator thinks it's because we raised our prices for the garden cleanup crew and landscaping, and so she had trouble selling. But the company was still working. It's just she was stressed out of her mind because she was only on a 2-day backlog. So that was something that we decided to track this year and make it kind of like one of her big three, uh, like priorities. So that so my answer to the only quoting Monday or Tuesday is basically, once she has a 3-week backlog, she's not to go out anymore doing estimates until we're at a 2-week. But during that time, she should be calling all of those estimates. There's a crazy number we had. It was like 15, we were like 15% close rate. Like, it's crazy. That number sounds low, but when you think about, we did 105 estimates or something like that and only closed 15, like that sounds crazy, in a month. So I don't know. It was that's something that scared us to death. But so anyway, with that said, I don't know. I think we're about at an hour here or close to it. Anything you want people to know about you, find you, or promoting anything? I do want to say one thing. I saw on your website when I was doing a little research on kind of like where you were, because a lot of people that view this want to know like where are you from. So I like to look that up and put it on the notes. And I saw that you have a book or something right on your front page. What's that all about?
A book?
Yeah, it looked like a book. No?
No,
Okay.
that may be
Let me go
wrong.
to the website here.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That's a lead magnet on the website. So if you request it's basically a way to get people to request a quote. It's basically, if you request a quote, you get the free 5 lawn care tips.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and it was like, I know you were about to come on, so I didn't have time to look into it, but I saw it looked like a book, and I was like,
Make it look
that's
like that.
pretty awesome. Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, yeah. Sorry to cut you off there. Kristian, you're one of my lawn care brothers, man. We've got this competitive thing going where whoever gets to 2.5 first, that's the deal, right? So like, if it's August and you hit that, I hit it, I won or you win. Like, it's
Hey,
not at the end of the year. Go ahead.
We've had an incredibly light winter, and I know I've been saying that majority of our work is contract based, but we do rely on snow to provide hauling, extra per push hours, sanding, that sort of stuff. So we're down by, in terms of the budget to be actually able to hit that 2.5, we're down by like 150, 200 grand already this season. And we're only
Wow.
2 and a bit months in because we've been getting effectively no snow. It did snow overnight into this morning, but as of yesterday, when I took the dog for a walk, there was grass. Like, you could see grass, which in January is unheard of. So you have the jump start right now. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I forget when did it start? November
November.
1st. So that month I had a pretty decent month. I'll throw out a number. I don't know, 80K probably. And then December, which we just finished, 30. So that's where I'm at. So my snow has sucked too. I mean, we've only charged one full snowstorm so far.
The difference is you're way heavier in the summer than we are. We kind of average out, right? So I think we're maybe at 350, 400 right now when we get 5 or 6.
Yeah. So, and also before we go, I just want to read off maybe Eden. We leave for Idaho tomorrow. Spent night in Ogden and hit Arizona Monday. I'll wave as we go by. We are extremely route dense, 2-man crews, 30 a day, and never goes out further than 2 miles from shop. That's pretty impressive. Good morning, Caesar. Oh, I think you might be new. I haven't seen any comments that I can remember from you, Caesar. So if you're new, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for saying good morning. Appreciate you. Don't forget, you can always leave more comments and things like that. But yeah, Kristian, I'll let you go one more time. Any last things you want to say, or any good advice you want to tell anybody before you head out?
No, I appreciate being on here. If you guys are interested in the topics we're discussing, and I don't get a rip off of this, it's just, how Freddie and I see each other every 3 months. There's a coaching group we're a part of. It's through Simple Growth. I've got extreme value from that. To be in the group that Freddie and I are in, you need to be over $1 million a year in sales, and you need to be vetted and qualified, and go through talking with one of the consultants there, and they would check that. They do have a group for people below $1 million in sales. I think being a part of a coaching group, whether it's Simple Growth or anything else, is extremely valuable. Since I was 17 or 18, I've been a part of some sort of peer group, whether it was focused on real estate or different business types or lawn care. I've been involved with coaching or a peer group or a network like that. So I think that there's massive value in that. So if there's one thing I could leave you with, it would be check out something like that. Like I said, whether it's Simple Growth or something else. I know there's a ton of them in the lawn care space, or even Mike Handy's has his lawn care course. Those are worth checking out. And yeah, nothing on my end to sell. So
that's pretty awesome. I didn't know that you were part of groups like that since you were 17. It makes sense. You're super young too. How old are you?
Just turned 28 a little while back.
Dude, that's pretty young, and that's pretty consistent with a lot of probably the listeners are within that age range, and that's a good inspiration too. I mean, you started this thing when you were probably 20, right, or a couple years later than that. You built a pretty successful business that I feel like we have pretty similar sized businesses where we're competing against each other now at this point. And I don't know, it's pretty impressive. I appreciate you. Yeah, we don't get anything from that group that we're a part of. I took my general manager to that sometime last year, and she came back and ran with it. I mean, started implementing changes, and I couldn't say no, because you know what, I went to that thing that you went to. You were inspired and you wanted to take it off. Let's do it. And it's basically changed our business in just a short little bit of time. I'm pretty stubborn for some reason. I don't know why, but my advice too would be that, and I've said this at another podcast, was if they said, what could you change if you had to go back and start over? It would be that I would join some kind of peer group way earlier than I did. I was always at the mindset. I had a lot of friends that were part of the academy that were close by, and I respected that. I never doubted it, but I just felt like I didn't need it, is what I thought, and I always said, well, if I ever feel like I'll plateau, that's when I'll do it. And luckily, I don't think I ever plateaued. I didn't have a great year last year, but I was already part of the group. So, but anyway, I definitely recommend joining some kind of peer group. We're not getting anything out of telling you guys that. Yeah, we're with the Simple Growth group. I just love the people in there, the coaches, and the sessions that we have every quarter. So anyway, Chris, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you. This is valuable. This is going to inspire people, I hope. So yeah, with that, I'll see you in Arizona.
Awesome. Thank you, and see you then.
Yeah, see you, man.